yourself by putting your hand over your eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And now your ears. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. And now over your heart. And just extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that we need both the light and the dark in order to grow. We need the dark time and the light time in order to grow. In order to grow consciousness, in order to grow abundance, in order to grow compassion, in order to grow stronger families, in order to grow deeper relationships with our beloveds, in order to make good recreation choices, we need both the darkness and the light to grow. You know, when I'm talking about the dark here today, I'm not talking about the dark in terms of the painful times in our lives. Sometimes we say that phrase, boy, that was a dark time in my life. Or we refer to St. John of the Cross, who says he had a dark night of the soul. That's not the kind of darkness I'm looking at today. I'm looking at the kind of darkness which simply is without activity. The kind of darkness that has no chaos in it, that's not frenetic, that's restful, that's quiet. That's the kind of darkness that I'm talking about today. And it's important because we often misunderstand this, because we have trained ourselves so much to be human doings instead of human beings, that this time of darkness can help us to reconnect with the notion that our purpose on light here on earth is to shine our light, our particular unique loving light. It's not in what we do, it's in who we are on this planet. You know, sometimes we don't see change for ourselves, and because we can't see it with our human eye, we don't think it's happening. We actually think that it's not happening. But what we want to remember is once we set our intention in life, once we put out our thought as to the kind of life that we want, we only have one job, and that job is to protect that thought from anything that might sabotage it. And that is done in the quiet, in the stillness, without a lot of frenetic running around in our lives. See, the truth is that very often there is no manifestation of our good in our life without the dark time, without the quiet time. Now, sometimes there are some people who don't need the quiet time, but most of us in this room, myself included, and I know Reverend Betsy feel this way, and other people who have studied for a long time, we understand that we have to be quiet in order to protect our thoughts. Sure, there are some people for whom life is really easy. There are some people for whom, you know, money just jumps in their pockets, for, you know, beautiful men and gorgeous women calling them on the phone for good times out there. There are some people like that. There are some people like that who every project they ever started just manifests itself in wildly successful ways. There are some people who play scratch golf without ever taking a lesson. I know that. I hope none of you are here today, but if you are, I want you to know I'm praying for you, because I know that for you, there are no blocks to that which God has already given all of us. But for most of us, we need to spend some time in the darkness, in the quiet, in our lives. We're celebrating winter solstice, and the whole point of winter solstice is to remind us that there is nourishment in the dark time of the year. That's why it exists, to help us understand that. It is, in fact, a pagan holiday. Now, if you're not used to that word, we want to get clear about what paganism is, who pagans are. Pagans are people who worship Creator and creation with the same energy. Sound familiar? That's what we do. We worship Creator and creation with the same energy because we know it's all divine. And that's what a pagan is. See, we've got to get away from this idea and remove ourselves that we're separate from anybody else. We are one with pagans. We're not trying to be pagans. We're trying to understand that we are one with it. Either all paths to God are good or they're not. And in this church, we believe all paths to good are really important. See, paganism has received a lot of bad press. And a lot of it has come because somebody, I'm not mentioning names here, but somebody started the notion that they were devil worshipers. Now, the purpose of that notion that got started out there was that people would shun it. People wouldn't want to go near it because they were... Look, the devil is a Christian concept. It is not a pagan concept. Pagan people worship Creator and creation, and they have no devils in their lives for any reason. The reason it's important for us to get comfortable with paganism is because, like all of the other traditions that we have celebrated here this month, Bodhi Day, the tradition of Buddhism, Hanukkah, the tradition of Judaism, and now we're going to talk about the winter solstice. The reason it's so important is because what happens is when we only learn about spirit that is within us from that which we are familiar with and comfortable with, we start to say, I know that. I know that. I don't need to hear that. I know that. But when we venture out into somebody else's culture, into somebody else's path, we listen a little more carefully. And it's at that time, when we're listening to people who have different ways of doing things, that we might catch that nourishment that we need at that very moment in our lives. So today, as we've done with all of, and we will continue to do with all of the altars that we have here that Rosemary built for us, we're going to do a blessing. So I'm going to ask Liz and Marita to come forward, and we're going to do the blessing. And if it's comfortable for you to participate in that, will you please stand and face the east?
Pray to you. Grandmother, I see you sitting in the east, and you are sacred, and you are looking at me. If you would, make a half turn to your right, or quarter turn. Grandmother, I see you sitting in the east, and I pray to you, pray to you, pray to you. Grandfather, I see you sitting in the south, and you are sacred, and you are looking at me. Quarter turn to the right. Grandmother, I see you sitting in the west, and I pray to you, pray to you, pray to you. Grandmother, I see you sitting in the west, and you are sacred, and you are looking at me. Quarter turn to the right. Grandfather, I see you sitting in the north, and I pray to you, pray to you, pray to you. Grandfather, I see you sitting in the north, and you are sacred, and you are looking at me. Blessed be.
Thank you. This simple practice alone, this simple practice of acknowledging, is a very religious science practice. And the reason is because we believe life is eternal. And we believe that infinite wisdom is coming to us from all directions all of the time. In the case of pagans, in the case of the winter solstice tradition, people put names to that sometimes. And we do that too. It's perfectly fine to put names to the wisdom from which you are looking, whether it's a personal ancestor, or whether it's Jesus or Buddha or Lao Tzu, or whether it's your sponsor or your best friend. Calling in from wisdom for ourselves is a very powerful spiritual practice. Pagans do it in ritual, and I don't think that's a bad idea for us sometimes to actually take moments to call in wisdom in ritual in our own lives. The presence of God is always trying to get through to us, is always trying to send us wisdom thoughts, thoughts of truth, thoughts that say you are abundant, you are loved, you are wanted here just as you are compassionate, you are whole, perfect, and complete. That's what the great goddess and God are trying to send to us every single moment of every single day. Yeah, amen. Pagans begin to understand there's a rhythm to the earth. And here's the truth of the matter. You and I know that rhythm. We know that rhythm. And we can use winter solstice as a time to remind ourselves that we know this rhythm of the earth. That in the dark time, it's time for us to rest more, to be quieter, to allow the longer nights of rest to empower our dream time, empower our restorative time in our life. See, and here is the thing. We don't have to do anything else to be in sync with that rhythm. We don't have to add anything to us. Simply, we have to subtract some stuff from our lives. You know, when in earlier times, before electricity, people went to bed when it got dark. And when the longer time came, the winter time, they slept more. Now, we not only have light bulbs, but we have these smartphones. And what they do is we have reminders. Fortunately, I don't know how to use my reminder. Donna, unfortunately, knows how to use a reminder a lot. See? And here's the one purpose of reminders. It's to get us to do something else other than what we're doing right now. That's the only purpose of the reminder. It's to get us to do something else besides what we're intending to do right at that moment. Celebrate winter solstice this week by turning off your reminders for a week and just feeling what it feels like to get into the nature and the rhythm of you. Because the nature and the rhythm of you is the nature and rhythm of the God and goddesses on this planet. It's the nature and rhythm of life in our life. See, the longer nights will help us to replenish ourselves. A rest allows us to sleep longer and dream longer. And that's an important religious science activity as well, is dreaming. Here is the problem. When we dream, we have to just put the dreams in the dark, put it in the soil, and leave it be. It's not to run after them and to see if they're working. It's to put it into the darkness, into the soil, and allow it to begin to work. You can look at it every once in a while, but don't touch it. Don't help it. Don't be a doing, be a being, and just allow it to be there. See, maybe if we had to pay for rest, we'd take it more seriously. Maybe if we had to buy a special outfit for rest. There were special gym outfits, and maybe there's a rest outfit that was very expensive, and we probably would rest if we put that on. Maybe if we had to buy a special program that was taught you how to rest, maybe then we'd do the rest. But see, we don't need to do anything like that. We just need to park it somewhere. That's all. We just need to stop. You know, sitting on your couch and doing nothing, like our card says today, is a spiritual practice. Donna leaned over to me and said, all the wives are going to hate this. But maybe we could learn from our brothers. You know, they turn on a football game. Maybe we don't have to do that. Maybe we can just sit down. Maybe we could just sit there. Those of us who are from the recovery community know that very early in our recovery, most of us have been taught a thing called HALT. And we you know, in recovery, when you're new in recovery, we have to have it simple for ourselves. We can't have it too complicated. And so the simple is, don't get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, too tired, because we understand that when we get too tired, what happens is we lose our way. We lose our commitment. When we get too tired, we get crabby. When we get too tired, we get insecure. When we get too tired, we start imagining slights that aren't even there. When we get too tired, we spend more money on this holiday season on people we never intended to buy a gift for anyway, but we're tired and they got us a gift and we can't think straight. And then we get mad at the retailers. Do you ever notice that? Oh, yeah. Oh, they just made me all those sales and they're open all the time and I had to go. No, you didn't have to go in there. You got too tired and you got slicked in there with them. See, when we get too tired, what happens is we say things we wish we hadn't said. We say things we wish our smartphone would have beeped right at that moment to remind us. Because we're reacting to something somebody else said. And often, that's not even true. We think we're reacting to somebody else said, but what we're reacting to is an injury that hasn't been healed that is inside of us. And we're so tired we can't even see that. So we just go after the other person in our life. Tell your neighbor, you need more rest. Okay, good. They got it. They got it. Very good. They got it. I want to just finish up this by reminding people about the winter solstice decorations, because you know, decorations add to our spiritual nourishment in life. It's why God put lilies in the field. It's why Solomon had such a beautiful temple. The Bible tells us that God created the Garden of Eden so beautiful even before humans came, because decorations are important in our life. You know, the wreath that we see this time of year actually comes from winter solstice. It's when people would take the wagon wheel off of their wagon when the snow got so high and they couldn't go anywhere. They'd take the wagon wheel off and they decorate it with holly and they put it on their door. And it was for the purpose of saying, neighbors, I know it's hard to get here, but we're open to you. We're glad you're here. The evergreen tree that we see here is actually a winter solstice evergreen. And it's designed to remind people that even in the dark time, in the quiet time, there's time for cheerfulness and light and friendship and fellowship. and the Yule log. See, all of these holidays, you're noticing by now, they're very close to our Christmas decorations. And Christians understood the power of decorations in our life. And so they paid the pagans the highest compliment they could. Imitation. Okay? That's a nice way of putting that. So don't email me. I know the other answer, okay? All right. The Yule log. The father would get the Yule log and he would carve a sun in it. And he would put that there on the hearth and they would burn that for the 12 days of Christmas. And they would break off a little part so that it could be used to start the fire the next year. And the purpose of the sun was to say what our gospel choir song sings, hold on. Hold on. It's coming. The light time is coming. The daytime is coming. Hold on. Don't give up. Turn to a neighbor and say, don't give up. Okay, they got that too now. Yeah. All right. So those are really important holidays. In your bulletin, my dear friend, Reverend Carol Huntley, has designed a winter solstice ritual. And I invite you to celebrate winter solstice this week in 2 ways. One is to do this ritual with your family or with your friends. Just get some friends over and do this. It's a very sweet ritual. And the other is to notice, just notice how much rest you resist. How many times you think you have to get up and do something. See, you might get the thing done, but you won't get the be done. You won't serve your beingness, your nourishment. You won't nourish your soul by doing that. So those are your 2 homework assignments. Winter solstice is a very beautiful, beautiful holiday, and I'm so grateful that I am in a church that celebrates pagan ritual without just getting all nitwitty about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let's take this message into prayer, knowing that the spirit of one is all around us. The spirit of winter solstice and Hanukkah and Bodhi and the Christ consciousness and Kwanzaa, all of them right here, right now. I give thanks for that. Knowing that I am reminded through love to simply nurture and nourish the seeds. Nurture and nourish, not help, but nurture and nourish the seeds. I give thanks for that. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.